I think we're adjusted well, actually.
We adjusted.
We've adjusted.
Oh, backlight.
No, it really suits you.
Oh, it suits you, John. You look great. Nice shirt, by the way.
Thanks.
That's
You
great.
do.
Welcome, everybody. We're back again. Nana and the ravenously talented Áine Tyrrell. This is the second podcast, and we're focusing today. The theme is Journey to Music, and we want to go back. We want to go back to the beginning.
Go back to the way back when.
To the way back when your mother birthed you, and there were some fairies and they tinkled. And let's set the scene as to the musical culture that you were born into in your home country of Ireland. And just, set the scene for us as to what you were born into.
Yeah. Well, my dad's a musician. Yeah, traditional Irish musician. But, I think the dad dad started playing music as a banjo player, playing traditional Irish tunes. And it's only in his, I think he was about 40 when he released his first CD. So he really was a banjo player, and tunes was his love, And Irish traditional tunes are incredible because they go back, hundreds of years.
Thousands, hundreds. Yeah.
And compositions that, it's beautiful because, like, a tune that you're playing now, let's say, for example, a reel or a jig or something, like, it could have been played 350 years ago with a different group of people, and there's, like, a beautiful power in that.
So it's a bit similar to the ragas in the classical Indian music.
Yeah. And they're passed on, they were passed on by ear. I mean, now they have notation and everything for it, and people learn in all sorts of ways, like YouTube, and it's gone all over the world, people learning traditional Irish music. But, it was an oral tradition.
And so different clans would have different jigs or reels, or was there like a sort of set for romance ones and a set for farming songs?
Well, there's definitely, in the tunes which don't have words, let's say jigs, reels and all that stuff, that there aren't words, but there's definitely tunes that come from different pockets of the country.
Wow.
And they have their own style. And interestingly, I think they're quite like the accent of that area.
Oh, wow.
Like like Donegal tunes sound like Donegal. Like it's interesting.
Okay, I think at this point we need a demo. Can you give us a reel or a jig or something?
Oh, I don't even have my whistle near me.
But okay. Hum it. Something. I love it.
Yeah,
that's
that one in particular.
That's
is
so good to know. I love it. That's great.
So like that, and then Irish. Let's say the sean-nós singing is a tradition with unaccompanied singing. Yes.
Okay.
So without the voice, basically.
So sounding.
No, so words, in Irish, but just no instrumentation. So, and a lot of sean-nós songs are incredible. They were ways of telling stories, ways of passing down stories, ways of. There's one beautiful one, an amazing singer, Liam Wainley, sings, and it's the song has two different endings, and one is that basically it was for when it wasn't safe to practice being pagan anymore, and so the ending was I can't remember the exact words now, whether it was safe to come to the rock to meet or not the next day. So to be sung on Saturday, and depending on whether it was safe to come the next day to practice your religion or not.
And is that where bardism comes from? Like the bards employed those songs and those.
Yeah, so definitely there's a lot. So my dad started very much within the tradition, and then only in his later years did he start singing songs accompanying himself. So so he comes from very much the tune side of things. So his bank of melody and everything he draws on is very much connected to the traditional Irish music.
And hence the culture and the land and everything. Wow.
So me starting off, like, that's what he was always like, get a bank of melody, look, you have hundreds of years of history of beautiful melody before you, like, learn that first. And then, so I started off playing music by playing the flute and the tin whistle and learning melody.
Right.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I was about 17 or 18 that I took up guitar at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you play the banjo when you were younger?
No. Yeah,
so you only
it
did
was
strings
winds.
when you hit 17?
Yeah,
18?
I mean, I would pick up Dad's, so there was all these instruments around the house and pick them up and bang them and stuff like that, but it was definitely flute and whistle. And actually I wanted to, like, rebel against Irish traditional music, and actually even on the flute I started by playing classical music. And yeah, my mum was, you know, amazing. She was like, yeah, just do it. And I was like, you know, a silver flute is Irish traditional flutes are wooden flutes, so it was like a total rebellious thing. And then it just sucked me back in. I couldn't deal with the strictness of classical music and everything. There's no place. I just felt like where can you express yourself, you know, whereas Irish music, you know, while the tune is the same, let's say, you know, that tune, how you embellish it and flourish it and make it your own is completely up to the player. So there's a lot of room for self-expression within the boundaries
to make it yours.
Of tradition.
That's so nice. Something you said to me once, which I found really poignant, that I always remember, is you said that everyone has their own song.
Yeah.
And I had a really beautiful image of that, of just that you're sort of born with this sound signature and you figure it out maybe one day, or it's the song that your parents encourage you to play when everyone's around, or when you're around
there's definitely
the
like it's lovely, like when, you know, even like when my cousins' kids were all around, you know, it's kind of encouraging all of them to sing something. That was something that we, you know, everyone was encouraged to contribute always. Even like, you know, that there's beautiful little pubs in the middle of nowhere, and like, for example, when I went home to record this album, actually, the first night I got there was a session in the local pub. Now, this is Daly's, anyone who knows it, in Bell Harbour, tiny little pub, and Rena is the barmaid. And she, like, the pub used to also be a post office and a shop and everything. And and so I've known her for a long time. Like, you know, always growing up, Rena was there. And there was a session going on, everyone was playing, and then everyone was like, okay, Rena for a song. Now, I had probably heard her sing when I was younger, but had never really taken notice. And she sang this, like, heart-wrenching song about a mother not knowing, being adopted and not knowing, you know, you're a motherless child. And I just, like, burst into tears, like, right in the middle. I was like, wow, you know, even the barmaids behind in a little tiny pub in the middle of nowhere has a contribution, has a song and something that she would sing every now and then, and just stunning, you know. So I suppose you're always encouraged in a way to contribute, and definitely within my family, you know, I know there'd be varying degrees of it around the country, and depending where you're from, you know, Clare is such a hotbed of Irish traditional music as well. In particular, the county is just full of it. So yeah, the encouragement was always there to contribute something, you know, whatever way that was. And even when I was learning the tin whistle or learning a tune, you know, I'd go in and they're playing a kicking session, all these really incredible musicians, and they'd be like, come on, you come play a tune, and I'd be like, ding, 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 and they'd all try to match along.
You.
Yeah.
So you're just constantly held in a space, and there wasn't mistakes, there was learning opportunities, and
and I
give
suppose
this a whirl.
around music and around the tradition of music, it's just such a, you know, you can have a 10-year-old in a session and an 85-year-old in a session, and it's the music is the thing that connects you. Your age doesn't matter, or what you
So
bring.
beautiful.
And so to have that, I suppose, as a I don't know, a platform to start from is beautiful. And then both my mum and dad, my dad being a musician, my mum was involved in a lot of musical theatre. She was a director.
Okay.
So she was constant, like her life was a musical. Like she was constantly singing. I hate musicals now because it's just like
you had a fair fill of them.
We had a fair fill of them. Yeah, exactly.
But that would have added to your. Well, do you think that would have added at some point for your desire to perform, per se?
Yeah, probably my lack of shyness around it, because we were around that so much that it just wasn't an unknown scary thing, and it wasn't like I was trying to explain that to either of my parents, although they both had their warnings and misgivings and concerns over my career path, but like it's not like I'm fighting against two parents that are accountants that are looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? It's kind of like, well, look at the two of you, like this is
and they personally value music as a journey. And
my mum, whilst not a professional musician or anything, always singing, always playing lots of really amazing female musicians from a very early age, and also carrying those songs and those stories as the one who was putting us to bed and nurturing us and doing all that it it was the she would still carry a lot of those songs and stories to us that are kind of like those nighttime. I suppose when I think of a lot of those songs, they're the ones, and I sing them to my kids.
To your kids. Oh, can you sing one now? Come on, just a half one. Just one little one. All
right, there's one that as I rode down through Galway City at the hour of 12 midnight, who did I see but a handsome lady, combing her hair in the candlelight. Lady, I've come a courtin', your fine favours for to win. And if you should smile upon me next Sunday night, I'll call again. Oh, whack for the tooraloora laddie, whack for the tooraloora lay. Whack for the tooraloora laddie, whack for the tooraloora lay. Lady, I have gold and silver, lady, I have houses in land, oh. Lady, I have ships on the ocean, they'll all be at your command. What do I care for your gold and your silver? What do I care for your houses and land? What do I care for your ships on the ocean? All I want is a handsome man. Oh, whack for the tooraloora laddie, whack for the tooraloora lay. Whack for the tooraloora laddie, whack for the tooraloora lay. And it goes on and on and on and on.
Oh, that's lovely. It is. It's a time.
Oh, look, my mum is watching just as I was singing that.
Hello, Mum. That must be a
so
nice
gorgeous
moment for you to say. Yeah, beautiful.
Hi, Mama.
That's great. There's something very I didn't grow up with any of that.
Yeah.
So I think Brahms' Lullaby was what I ended up humming to Jasmine a lot when she was little, and just making stuff up. But there must be something really special. I mean, you can feel it. I'm sure you can all feel it. That there's a thread, and it's old, and it's not personal. It's not about you and your baby. It's just about being a mother and soothing something, and it's nice drawing on something really wide, drawing on a feeling. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And knowing that those songs pass on, and they, and that nurturing in the story and the tradition of it just keeps going and living. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Great. That's really lovely. Really lovely. And the land, it just feels a lot about, I don't know, you can feel it. You can feel this woman just doing her thing. And all she wants is a handsome man, apparently. But it just feels...
And like I was saying earlier, different pockets of the country have their have songs that feel and come from that, and that one is about Galway, which is where I was born and where I'm from. So like, you know, there's that sort of passing on from that tribe, you know, from that Galway. Yeah,
it must be strong when you perform songs like that when you're overseas and there's Irish people in the audience, and you perform a song that has a reference to your culture. They must be so stoked.
Yeah, it was lovely actually for the repeal the Eighth Amendment when I went down to Melbourne to play a benefit for it, and the room was full, like completely full of Irish people. You know, a few stragglers that got dragged by boyfriends or girlfriends or something, but basically, yeah, an entire room of Irish people. When I started O Roisin de Bhathawallia, which is quite an old song that you learn in school, you know, it's kind of a
bit like a national anthem, kind of.
Yeah, you know, it's a rebel song. It's from our history. It's in Irish and it's an accessible melody, so it's it's a good one to teach. So yeah, you learn it at school. So when I sing it, people are kind of like, oh, I haven't heard that song that way ever. You know, it's kind of like this.
Yeah, contemporizing of it.
So by the end, the whole place was just going crazy, you know, and it was beautiful because there's not many times where over here, especially, I have a room like that where everyone knows where I'm coming from, and a lot of the songs, other songs of mine, my personal songs that have references to, you know, like Granuaile, the Pirate Queen, and different stuff. I didn't have to explain anything, you know. It was just like, these people get it.
Yes.
They know that those shared, you know, culture and memory. Whereas here, you know, it's explaining an awful lot of that, which, you know, is also sharing. And,
I love that pirate song of yours because I think it speaks very strongly to all women.
Yeah.
You know, women's issues are women's issues the world over, aren't they?
Yeah,
so
and she was way ahead of her time, being a, you know, total kick-ass woman.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've always existed. We've always been here.
We've always been here. We've always made the world turn and the sunrise and the moon shine. Yeah, we're the ones that have been around witnessing it, holding that energy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you is there anything that you miss about, like, because now in your music you're on a solo journey. You're not at the pub with the Irish people in the session. You're not. It's, you know, it's obviously different. You're not in the musical culture that you grew up in. You don't have that around you. You've now taken that, and you're on a you know, a pretty, at times I'm assuming, quite daunting solo journey with getting your expression and your music out there.
Yeah. I think there's been a few really positive things, though, about that. Because, yeah, it can be at times I'm kind of like, over here, gigging, it can kind of be sort of a novelty act sort of thing. You know,
that's the Irish chick.
That's
the
the
Irish chick with feathers in her hair. That hot one with the great legs. Yeah. You know, that one with all those kids.
But in a way, I remember there was a moment in the desert when Mark and I went out to record my first album, Queen of Swords, and there was this moment where I had actually sent a song back to my dad, and it had been a really emotional moment, the recording of it, and we recorded it in this cave in Cooper PD, and he kind of came back with, you know, yeah, I think you should do this, or, you know, change the key of it, and da-da-da. And Mark and I kind of sat there, and Mark was like, well, are you going to take that on board, or are you going to forge your own path here? And it wasn't just my own path from my dad. I completely respect everything that he has, you know, given me musically, and equally my mum. You know, it wasn't about rejecting that, but it was more, okay, this is a tradition I've come from, and I can try to stay safe in that, and I can sing certain songs a certain way, and I know that there's a trajectory of a certain amount of success doing that, you know. Or am I going to take that sort of tradition and culture, and am I going to like push on either sides and try to expand it? Now, like, tradition is beautiful. Look, it's given me so much in terms of that, and melody and you know, like that passing on of story and storytelling and all that sort of stuff. But I think, you know, I had to decide to say, well, it can also be quite restrictive and you know, tell you what to do. You know, you follow this and then you do this, and after part A you go to part B and then you go, but you know, and there's all these rules. And yeah, at that moment, you know, it was a decision to say, okay, I have this beautiful start, but now it's about pushing those boundaries. And really that first album, Queen of Swords, was really testing those, okay, where can we push tradition, and where can we say, okay, let's take this bit that is safe and comfortable and let's just push it a little bit further, you know. And definitely my EP Fledgling Fall pushed it even further. And then this album Return to the Sea is just like fucking way out in the middle of the ocean, like pushing, like
We've
I don't
progressed. There's been evolution, and we're on a whole new playing field now.
There's just been a tsunami that's like carried me out.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
and what was the, like, when you started songwriting, like actually writing your own songs, did that start as something that in your, like, I'm assuming it was around when you were 17, 18, was that something that you would sort of journal or write as your poetry, and then you were like, oh, I'm going to put that to music? Or was that more of a, okay, I want to sing, so I need to sing about something?
Well, I always loved writing, and I always loved reading, and I always loved keeping journals. I was like always into that. So the writing part of it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me, I don't think. But the adding personal writing to music was different, and it was also different to what, I mean, my dad took a lot of old songs and reworked them, and he also took old poetry and set them to music, but writing wasn't his thing, you know. Yeah. So he's gone into the bank of amazing Irish poetry and words and literature and taken amazing bits from it and kind of decided, why reinvent the wheel when there's all this amazing, you know, stuff there. Whereas for me, it became a very personal journey to write and write about that. And, you know, maybe subconsciously in some way it was about writing the female perspective into history. Whereas and I think a lot, you know, I was reading recently about, for this songwriting workshop I'm doing, that, you know, the top whatever, something like Grammy winners for the last however many years. I should really have the facts. I could tell you sometime soon.
You'll get them.
But it was something like, you know, 13% have been written by women over this very expansive part of history. And of the women that have performed and won, you know, the majority of them are written by men for them. You know, even like I Feel Like a Natural Woman was written by a man, you know. So like the perspective of writing us into songwriting history as women is there's not a long tradition of it. You know, there have been such amazing foremothers before me, you know, but they really are very few and far between. And even, you know, some of the ones that I adore and think are amazing, you sometimes look at the credits and you realize, fuck, that's not there. Why are two dudes writing that song? Like, you know, some of Tracy Chapman's songs, or some of, you know, some, you know, you're like, wow, like where is the permission for us to write? And I think from an early age of being in the Irish music tradition, and it is very, you know, there's an amazing movement at the moment in Ireland called Fair Play, which is trying to push equal billing, equal everything for women in the traditional Irish music scene, because it is so heavily male dominated. And I know from playing music in Australia over the last few years, the change in just that being an awareness for festival directors and programmers and different sort of stuff, that it's beginning to change. And I go back to Ireland, I even looked at some posters recently for some festival, and I was like, I still can't believe that it's 98% male and there's no one saying, hello, there's a lot of really amazing females doing amazing work as well. And so it was probably a very early subconscious writing, writing females and the female experience into our tradition, you know, and that's where I started, you know, it's just from my perspective.
Yeah. So what was the first song? What was the first song that you wrote? And where you went, I've nailed it. That's me expressing myself. I got the words out and I matched it to some music, and I feel that that's done a pretty good job of being a valley, being a way, being something that's authentically expressing how I'm actually feeling.
Yeah. I don't know, because, you know, when you start off, you got a lot of angst, you know, 17 or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, my mum's saying in Peru, yes, you're right. And I can't even remember. I went travelling in South America. Thanks, Mum. And I've looked for that song. Mum was always at me, can you remember that song? And I was away from Ireland again, and I'd gone away for 6 months to travel South America, and just brought a guitar, basically. Yeah. And I think that was a lot of where it all started. I had been writing bits of songs, but I think it probably solidified a lot over there when I was on my own. No distractions.
Time. Hours and hours.
You know,
hours
and hours of time, and just me with a guitar and you know.
Great.
Yeah. And I speak Spanish, and so I was spending most of my days speaking Spanish and soaking all that out. So at night I'd just sit and be like, use my English, you know.
Wow. And they say that when you speak a different language or you sing in a different language, you're igniting different parts of your brain. Yeah, definitely. So that would have been, definitely something different.
Yeah, it was, you know, and I met some other musicians there, and just the rhythms and the tradition over there being its own tradition, different to the Irish music tradition, and seeing the similarities and differences and the feel of all that. So yeah, thanks, Mum. That's right. In Peru was probably where it kind of all came into some form of a line for me, where I was like, okay, I'm saying something and I'm matching it with the guitar and with the things are happening. Yeah.
And isn't it's often the way with anything to get clarity, to take our step out of whatever osmosis we're in to go and sit in a different one. And I suppose that's the best case scenario of different cultures coming together and evolving into something new. I suppose that's where traditions are melding, but then they become something different.
Yeah.
Like that snaky thing again.
I like the interpretive dance we're doing here.
Dance. I think I was Italian in a past life. I like to use my hands. And you receive a different, like you must notice now, you've been back to Ireland a couple of times since you've hit a certain amount of success here, and whilst you've had that success here, those songs have hit Ireland, and you've had even more success with some songs over there. So that must be an interesting process to go, wow, okay, look how that's received here, then look how it's received over there, and then getting more invitations for more festivals over there. Yeah,
it was. I remember I was touring in Europe before I went home to Ireland about this time of year last year, and I was at a friend of mine, Wallace Bird, an amazing Irish singer-songwriter. I was at her place in Berlin, and I had just done this great gig with her, and I just said to her, I'm terrified to go home. I was like, what if what I do doesn't translate, and I've been over in Australia for so long, and I don't know if they're gonna feel it. And she was like, trust me, you have nothing to worry about, you know. And I was like, all right. And the first gig I did was with Declan O'Rourke, who's an amazing Irish singer-songwriter, and it was at this festival in County Roscommon, which is sort of in the middle of nowhere and no place that I knew anyone either, but the room was full, and I'm sitting there just being like, come on, Nana, well, if you're here, like, help me get through this. And from the first song, the entire room was with me, and it was just a really powerful experience. And it was really interesting afterwards to hear their, what they could hear in my music. A few of them were like, wow, like you can really hear that Australian Aboriginal influence in your music. And I'm like,
Okay.
wow, okay,
Sure.
that
Yep.
never even crossed my mind because I'm here doing my thing.
Yeah.
Or they could
Wow.
hear, you know, that I've left Ireland and come back, basically, I suppose, is what they were hearing in my rhythms and in the way I was doing things. And I suppose in my, in my claiming of the space, which is a hard thing to do as a woman in any field, and especially in a very male-dominated Irish music contemporary
Yes.
landscape. It's hard to just claim your space and be like, "Hi, I'm here and I have something to say." And you know, you can as a female singer-songwriter, you know, there's loads of little avenues you can take. You know, you can go the appeal of, you know, that you know, the industry is full of sex appeal or full of that cutesy girly thing, you know, but actually just standing in your power and saying what you have to say is it's raw.
It's confronting transparency, like real transparency, and not following a lead or copying anyone or hopping into a genre that's already been created is super confrontational.
And I knew I was, you know, I knew that here where I come from, because they're Irish and they've come from the same place, but would they be willing to take the leap to where I was going? And so that was beautiful that
they did.
That they did, yeah. And the whole tour embraced that, you know, and that was really powerful for me, you know, to go back and be like, oh, okay, they get me, and they get me on a lot of different levels that probably even you know, even here they might not get me.
Yes. Yeah, and then next year when you go back and tour again, it'll be a whole nother...
Yeah, a whole nother bit of
thing.
adventure. So it's been quite a journey.
Quite a journey. The journey to music. Or the journey to getting your music out there. The journey to your voice matching your music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been big. I think it's time to play a song.
Should we ask for questions and then I can
Yes.
play a song?
Anyone desiring to punch around the edges anywhere? Or any of those little veiled corners? Any moments of desirous interest? Begging to know something? Stoke a little fire somewhere?
I know, I can't believe we have the fire on today, actually. We had to move from the
that was
trusty
hot.
couch.
Oh, it
Couch?
was the couth couch.
To leave the couch momentarily to because it's too hot in the winter.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, Jayney asked me to sing a song that I might have sung, you know, when I was little.
When she was wee, I had a very romantic notion of everyone's got their own song and it's in Gaelic and just some little personality song signature. But yeah, just wanted to hear what's your song? What's your song?
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and they change and evolve over time, and there's always ones where you know, people would know I sing it, so in the pub they might ask for that or things like that. But yeah, I went for one that is quite an old Irish song, but it had a reworking in the 90s by two songwriters who then passed it on to my dad, and my dad recorded it on an album of his called The Orchard, and that was his second album, and that was the first time I sang backing vocals with my dad ever, and that was kind of the start of my recording, you know, journey. And so this is a song that has been passed old, a very old song that's been passed on.
Yeah.
As we wander through the universe on this dark winter's night, the children, they're all dancing and the stars are shining bright. One more word must now be spoken out, sung to an old tune. Let's be friends this new year coming at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Let's be friends this new year coming at the rising of the moon. Will we gaze into the stars that shine with wonder in our eyes? Will we just destroy the planet, or is peace to be the prize? For the wail of fighting nations, it dims the beauty of the tune. Let's all dance a dance of freedom at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Let's all dance a dance of freedom at the rising of the moon. May the wisdom of the ancients with their messages and signs come shining on our tomorrows with the magic of the time. Like the star that shone on the wise men, like the dawn that's coming soon. It's a truth that guides us onwards at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. It's a truth that guides us onwards at the rising of the moon. If we live within God's garden, just be tender with our care, till we understand the meaning or the motives of the fair. Though we stumble through the darkness, trying far too much too soon, it's this truth that guides us onwards at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Stand up and be counted at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Stand up and be counted at the rising of the moon. Groo!
Thank you. That was lovely. I love that. That was really nice. Now, someone did send, John Kennedy said, do you
feel part of the amazing women music movement? Yes is the answer. I feel hugely part of it, and actually coming over to Australia is when I picked up music again. Oh, thanks for all the love hearts and the thumbs ups. I had stopped playing music for quite some time, and I didn't really know how to fit motherhood, creativity, the whole thing into. I didn't know how it worked, and in Ireland the only two models I saw at the time were young women who didn't have families, and that's what I had been playing in that time of my college days and after that, and in the singer-songwriter scene in Dublin. And then there was older women who had grown up children, but this sort of middle group, I didn't see anyone as a role model doing that. And one of the first singer-songwriters I met over here, now I just knew she was a singer-songwriter and her name was Claire. I had no idea that Claire Bowditch was like a household name. She was just a friend of mine, and speaking to her, and she was a mother, and she was a musician, and just an all-around epic human being, and she was like, you can do it. There's many, and another friend of mine, Sarah Carroll at the time, and a few other women that I just started being like, wow, I didn't see that in Ireland at the time. Now it's totally different, but at the time when I was looking around, I didn't see it. And so definitely coming over here and seeing that women were participating and bringing kids to festivals and being amongst it, it definitely made me feel like it was an option. And then, you know, once you're in it, you've got to keep championing for it. So yeah, I do feel very privileged, because I think, like, I can even look at Ireland, you know, and they're looking to Australia and all these amazing women that are coming up, and the power we've gathered over here by joining forces and championing each other. I think, you know, the music industry looks like from the outside that it's set up to be this competitive sort of thing, but I can tell you, like, this sisterhood among musicians touring around this country, it's incredible. And you could tell from the Possible and the crowdfunding, the amount of female musicians that were right behind me and pushing me on and sharing it and telling people about it. It's incredible, and it just shows, you know, when women really pull each other up, like what's possible, and that is what's happening in Australia at the moment, and it's really amazing to see, you know.
That's nice, and it's tangible.
Yeah,
and people are obviously, you're feeling it, John. you know it's there, hence you're referencing it. So that's
And Claire
nice
Bowditch was a huge. She is sensational, as you said there, John, and she was hugely inspirational at a very important deciding time of what I was doing with myself, and just one of those people you meet along the way that just, they don't, you know, I mean, I've told her a million times now the effect she you know, and the reason I'm doing this has a lot to do with her at that time, and just even little words of encouragement, you know.
It's nice to meet people who give you a reference point for what's possible, isn't it? And then they lean some of their light towards you and put it behind you and help you fluff up your wings a bit.
That's it.
It's
you know.
Well, that's what we women do well.
We do
what we do well in general in life with each other. Yeah.
So good.
So good, darling.
Nailed another podcast, Nana.
No, another podcast. I feel like there's something else. I feel like there's, I don't know.
Sorry.
Journey. No, I'm just thinking it's the journey to music. It's
what else?
What got you? So you're saying that Claire had a strong input in getting you back.
Yeah.
In the belief that you obviously needed to get back into it again. And what were your emotional triggers for wanting desperately to, obviously, you need a desperate urge to get back into the creative arts?
Yeah.
What really pushed you on that level?
I think when I had kind of stopped performing publicly, I mean, I still had my guitars and was playing music, and if I was down around with Dad, I'd be singing backing vocals with him or something, but when I had started a family, I had stopped performing, and, you know, for hundreds of reasons. But I think I tried to find that creative fulfillment in all sorts of other things, you know, like
Cooking,
yes.
baking.
Like I like at one stage I remember I was like sewing baby clothes for markets, and just like, you know, or just trying to express it, like I was making bibs, like fucking, you know, I was trying to express it in all these other ways, and, you know, and I was a teacher at the time as well, and I was like loving teaching, but I love being a teacher, and I was throwing all my creativity into that and doing hundreds of things that weren't music to try to fill that
gap,
that calling that, you know, is the and when I started being like, oh, you've really got no excuse to not just be expressing it even for yourself. It doesn't need to go any further than that. I didn't even bring a guitar over when I moved to Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so then getting a guitar and sort of sitting down, and it just started flowing all over again. I was like, okay, this is, you know, this is and I remember a friend of mine was like organising a kind of an open mic night down in Ocean Grove, where I was living in Victoria, and she was like, will you just come and sing a song or two? And she was kind of in cover bands and doing stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And so it was like my first sort of dip into the ocean, and I don't even remember what I was singing. I don't think it was anything of excellence, or I probably don't even sing those songs anymore. I don't even know. But afterwards, like 3 or 4 women come up totally in tears, like friends of mine, and they're like, "Why aren't you doing this?" And I was like, I don't know. I just, you know, and you build so many excuses in your life. Why not to do it? And for so long, it felt unsafe to play music. It felt like I didn't see a role model for it. It was, you know, I wasn't in a relationship that supported it. You know, it was dangerous thing to do. And so it just became this, you know.
The no-go zone. Yeah.
And so then to just dip a toe back in, it was like, okay, that's what I've been searching for in fucking baby bibs.
Thank God the baby bibs are done. I mean, you still do carry it through with a bit of your merchandising and the hand. She did a lot of hand screen printing, people, and she's taken a lot of care with those CD cover inserts. So it was, the journey to music for you's been present, and then it's been struggle, and then it's been put down, it's been picked up, it's been minced through, it's done lots of things.
Yeah, and then when I kind of felt that, well, I've got to do this for me, and I kind of felt around that same time I made that decision that I'm going for this, and I cut down hours at work, I went part-time. It was a lot of in the discussions with my kids, you know, I was like, you can, you know, dream whatever you want to be whoever you want to be, like, you know, dream your biggest possibility and be that, you know. Sort of, there was a lot of discussion at that time with my 2 girls in particular, you know, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, sort of things, you know, where they have that at like 3 and 4 and 5, you know, that sort of obsession with those questions. And I remember just being like, I'm a fucking hypocrite. Like, I'm a hypocrite here. I'm telling them that, like, you can do whatever you want to do and follow your dream, and I'm not doing that. I'm not showing them that. And so then it was a sort of, okay, even if this is all I do and I just play for me and a few friends for the rest of my life, at least I'm showing them that whatever you're passionate about, you need to follow, you know. And I think that came at a really similar time as meeting Claire, seeing that it was possible, like it was all sort of, and me finding my voice and my strength and who I was again after a very long time. Yeah, of not being in that place.
Well, hip hip hooray to that, darling. That's good. That's good.
Find your passion, people.
Find your passion. Find your journey to whatever it is, your own song in whatever way. Awesome. Go on the banner. That's banner. What is that? Is that an Irish thing?
Yes, that's from County Clare, where I'm from.
Oh, yeah. What's the banner?
The Banner County is what it comes from. We have, I don't know, every county has sort of a little saying.
You know, like banner.
You know, like go the pies or the whatever. You know,
go the pies. That would be a good Australian one. Go the sausage.
Ours are like more like located county by
land-based.
County. We're very, you know, tribal in that way. It's like we love our county.
Yeah,
that's
go
it.
Mullum.
Yeah.
Right.
Go Northern Rivers.
You can't hold
Come
on,
Brisbane.
Love it.
All right. Well, should we do this again next week?
We should.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All. Thanks a million. Episode 2, Journey to Music, Deeper into the Sea. Signing off. Cut.
Shazam.